welcome to this edition of Stream On. I'm Jim Williams, your host. Now, this week marks yet another outstanding week for PBS, and specifically their digital studios group, as they are telling us right now, get ready for a brand new edition of one of our favorite shows on PBS Digital, The Origin of Everything. And I got to say that they do such a wonderful job with it. In this edition, they talk about why do we say the term African American? Well, it just so happens that our guest is none other than Dr. Danielle Bainbridge. And Dr. Bainbridge is the person behind, or at least who created the team that put together this outstanding series. As I said, we all love it, The Origin of Everything. Now, a little earlier this year, during COVID, we had an opportunity to chat with Dr. Bainbridge about the projects that they are doing. And it's fascinating. So without any further ado, I welcome Dr. Danielle Bainbridge, and what an outstanding job you and your team have done on the origin of everything.
Thank you. We've been doing Origin of Everything for about 3 years,
Right, yeah.
and the topics kind of range, as you mentioned. It's like we like to think of it as like a grab bag of history. So we cover topics that are as diverse as why do we eat popcorn at the movies, to the racist origins of U.S. laws and everything in between.
Right.
And we try to focus in every week on just an undertold but still interesting part of social history that people maybe didn't learn in school.
One of the ones that I thought was very important, and obviously the month's just passed, but the 6 facts about the 19th Amendment. That to me was very fascinating. Could you kind of enlighten us again? Tell us about how that was one of the topics that you came about, I assume because of the 100th anniversary, but still, there's a lot of things people don't know, and I thought I knew a lot about it, but clearly I did not.
Yeah, so that was it's one of my favorite episodes. I still write for the channel. When we started Origin of Everything, I was writing all the episodes. And then as time went on and we got a bigger audience and we're producing more episodes, we hired writers.
Sure.
So that one was actually written by Meredith Danko, who is our script editor on Origin of Everything and also one of our writers. And we work pretty collaboratively as a team to come up with the topics. And like you said, it was the 100-year anniversary of the 19th Amendment. And we thought it was a good time to be covering that topic because it was so timely. But also coming up to what is probably going to be a very contentious election and has been a contentious race, we thought it was also interesting to cover an aspect of election history that maybe people don't know or haven't thought about in other ways. So we wanted to dive into just facts of the 19th Amendment, how the 19th Amendment related to race especially, and thinking about who actually was given the right to vote when the 19th Amendment was passed and who was still denied the right to vote for decades afterwards.
Funny you should mention the 2020 campaign as being contentious. I think there's at least 5 or 6 different areas that people could go to in the origin of everything to really do a deep dive that would help them understand some of the issues with the terms systemic racism and others. And you really did a very nice job on racist origins in the law to get that started.
Yeah, that was one of the episodes. So following the really tragic murder of George Floyd, as well as too many other Black people at the hands of police brutality, as well as systematic racism in the U.S., we saw a huge interest in our channel for past episodes we had done on race and on American racism. So we created a playlist that we were calling the Black History playlist, where we put together all the episodes that had to do with Black history into one playlist that people could use, and we started circulating it online. Um, the racist origins of U.S. law came specifically out of that moment where I wrote that episode, and I was really interested in diving into the ways that laws can be biased. And I think so often we think of law and law enforcement as something that's supposed to be this sort of unbiased, impartial system that passes things down in a fair way, and we often see that's not the case. So when I wrote that episode, I wanted to look into the history of why that is the case. Why do we see so much discrimination in the legal system? And how is the law written specifically in some instances to advantage certain groups over others?
You've been doing this now, you're saying, for 3 years. Are there some topics that when you delve into them, when you decided I'm going to take a look at this and do my deep dive, that when you came out of it, you were like, wow, I didn't know that?
Oh, that happens to me all the time. That happens. I mean, I like
That's a good thing, though. That's a good thing.
It is. It's a great thing. Because I mean, I teach. I'm a professor, but I also I'm still a lifelong learner myself. And a lot of the topics, I have my degree, my Ph.D. in African American Studies, but a lot of the topics are things that I was just generally interested in, or our team became interested in, or a fan wrote in and said, "Could you do an episode on this?" And I end up getting a new education every time I write an episode. So one of them that I thought was particularly interesting was, it was a lighter topic on why do we have middle names, and a fan requested it, and a bunch of people on YouTube were liking that comment and saying, we want that episode, like make that episode. And I wrote it, researched it, and right before it came out, I almost scrapped it because I thought, who's going to want to watch this episode? Who's really curious about this? And it turned out to be one of our highest performing episodes from that season. So I think all the time I'm learning not only what people are interested in, because I'm motivated also by the interest of our audience members, but I'm also learning new subject matter that I maybe didn't have expertise in before, but now I'm gaining access to through writing the episodes.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I'm going to have to go look at that one. I missed that one. Because I'm one of those people that's stuck with a family middle name that has been passed down from generations, and it's kind of like, okay, it makes no sense to me, but there must be a reason. So yeah, I can now find out about it. Thank you very much. That was you did the heavy lifting for me on that one. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
There you go. Right, it's a collaborative effort. One of the things that PBS Digital does. And I think that a lot of people have, you think of PBS, you think of, obviously your local PBS station. Those of us who have Passport love it to death. But sometimes we forget that PBS Digital has some of the most amazing and cutting edge programming that you can watch anytime. And I think that's one of the great things about the origin of everything, that you can find it in PBS Digital.
Yeah, I mean, I love working with PBS Digital. I mean, I'm not just saying that because I have to or anything like that. I really do love making digital content. And like you said, one of the great things about it is the ease of access for people. It's all available online. I mean, all of the PBS Digital Studio shows are available through YouTube or Facebook Watch. It's free to people to tune in. A lot of people who write into me that I really appreciate are teachers who use our videos for class, who screen them with their students and do all sorts of creative teaching methods with the kinds of content we make. So I think, there are definitely lots of great ways to access PBS content, but PBS Digital Studios is really special to me because we offer so much free content, which I really love.
What about during this COVID-19 pandemic? Has that brought up some topics that you felt, this would be cool to jump into?
Let's see. So we did one episode on how did we discover germs, which was inspired by the pandemic. And I co-wrote that with Meredith, again, one of our writers. And then I wrote an episode called Economic Lessons from Past Pandemics. And it was right near the beginning of the the lockdown. So I think that episode came out in April of this year. And we were contemplating as a team, what are some things we could cover and what would be our value add as a history channel when people are so fixated on the news. And it was interesting because we were thinking we could cover the history of pandemics or past pandemics that have happened, but that seemed kind of well-traversed territory.
Sure.
But we hadn't seen any articles that were talking about what economic outcomes had happened as a result of those pandemics. So we decided that was going to be our value add, the thing that we would be able to add to the conversation. And I really loved researching that episode because in one way it made me feel hopeful that I was thinking, okay, there have been catastrophic, economic downturns in the past, and there have been pandemics in the past, and humanity has survived them. So in the midst of something that was very bleak and very grim, it was actually really encouraging for me to do this and to share that episode.
One of the things I was thinking, because of the pandemic, we've become socially dependent in some regards on different platforms like Zoom and like that. And one of the things that I found interesting is that my wife was involved in a book club that was a Zoom book club. And they got together and they sat there and went through it. And I decided, it might be fun because, I'm here in the midst of doing streaming video, right? That we would do watch parties. And so we would have these watch parties and everybody would sit down and nobody had seen the episode before and we all watched it together. And then we would have a conversation afterwards. And so I guess the point I was thinking of was absolutely what you said is fascinating. But to me, one of the most fascinating aspects of the pandemic has been how we've socially interacted in some regards in a way that we probably wouldn't have socially interacted without had the pandemic not come.
I mean, that's definitely true. I found that, one, we have seen an uptick in viewership since the pandemic has started because people are at home. I mean, we have a literal and figurative captive audience. So when people are home a lot, they're just consuming an incredible they're consuming an incredible amount of online content. In another regard, it's been nice because one of the things I love about making digital content is the interaction with the viewer that you can have in a really direct and immediate way. So as soon as an episode comes up, people are commenting and people are writing to us and telling us what they think. And I've been, down in the comments section a lot recently, responding to people and reading suggestions and seeing what's happening. And I definitely will say I've been doing that more because I'm at home. And that social interaction with the fans has been really great and really inspiring. I just put up a post yesterday asking people for fan suggestions, and we got about 150 responses in 24 hours. So, I mean, people are more than happy to share online right now because it's, it's the only thing we have.
You've got a pretty solid pitch team there. So
they're always pitching things.
It's like, but what do you do after episode 2, right? Yes, okay. But that's fantastic. I mean, with the origin of everything, this is something that can live on for quite a while. I mean, is it something that you, when you first got involved, you thought, well, this will be great for a period of time, and then, I'll move on to something else? Because right now, I can't fathom that this cannot be something that lives on like Frontline and some of the other, long-term projects that PBS has had that have, lasted the test of time.
Oh, thank you. That's really kind of you to say. So when I started Origin of Everything with PBS, it was a collaborative effort. PBS reached out to me, and they were in the process of casting for what was then called an untitled history web series. And I was a grad student, and I was really interested in becoming part of the PBS family. And so I was a PBS kid myself. and I love the content that they make. So I signed up, and we started developing this show together. I think over the course of the 3 years, things have changed for me. Like, I graduated from grad school. I got my first teaching job at Northwestern. So my schedule has shifted, and I think that's the only thing that would ever make me not want to do more Origin of Everything is just time commitment, because the time you have as a grad student is not the same as the time you have once you're done with grad school. And I think one thing I love about doing the series is, you're right, we don't really run out of topics very often. Everything in the world has a history, and you could find the history of, fill in the blank thing relatively quickly now with all these great research tools we have online. So I think Origin of Everything, I hope that we have a really long run, but I always think of it as something as, I hope that the series continues on as long as it's useful to people. And that's really my main ambition.
Well, you've got that theater arts background. If there's always the opportunity to I mean, Lin-Manuel Miranda did very well with Hamilton. You could maybe find somebody in history that you want to make a Broadway play out of. You never know. I mean,
oh my gosh, that would be a dream. If I ever had something as successful as Hamilton.
Yeah, that from your lips to God's ears. Yeah, that would be the case, right? But
yeah, exactly.
But I think the fun part of this is that you've been able to create something in such a, the topics can be heavier, the topics can be light, but it's something that is easy to, and don't take this the wrong way, it's easy to consume and understand without having to go, into great detail to figure out what does that mean. It's really, it's very user friendly, for lack of a better way of putting it, I guess would be the way of saying it. And as someone who watches it, I can tell you that it just, I gauge things on how, having produced a lot of television myself, thing on, if I watch something, I'll ask somebody, how long did you think that lasted? And if they say an hour, and it would know I'm in trouble. But these things fly by, and I think that's a testament to the writing topic and to how well it's done.
Thank you so much. I mean, one of the things that we always want, like our whole team at Origin, from everyone who works at PBS to the folks who work at the production company that helps me make Origin of Everything complexly, what we always want is to delight people and to entertain them and educate them at the same time. I think if, like you said, if folks are, if it feels like it's dragging or it's not entertaining or it doesn't catch their attention, you're competing with a lot of content online, which is the understatement of the day, right?
Right.
There's so many things that people could be doing or watching or engaging with online, that if you don't make it something that's accessible and friendly, like right from the beginning of Origin of Everything, one of the things that I had to learn was not to write in academic jargon. It's like no shortcuts, no shorthand, no terminology that people won't be able to understand just listening to it. And if you are going to use any complicated terminology or theories that people maybe haven't been introduced to, you have to explain them in an accessible way. Right. And I like to tell folks that I always think of the Origin audience as people who are as smart and as engaged and as curious as our whole team is and as I am, but they maybe haven't read the same books we've read. And our job as a show is to introduce them to those books and ideas.
It's funny. Gabrielle Diaz, who is one of the programming executives with Disney, we used to have this, when talking about pitch meetings, right? You would sit down, and Gabby would always open it up by saying, "Telling me a story." And and I think what you've done in the Origin of Everything is you've grasped the ability to tell a story, and you just hit upon the fact that yeah, there's some things that might, there might be some academic aspects to it, but at the end of the day, your ability to make this successful has been the ability that you can tell a story and tell it in a compelling way. And that is not an easy thing to do. It is indeed a talent, and it is why I'm sure the origin of everything is successful.
Thank you so much. I mean, I think so much of good history is really it's storytelling. It's history is our collective story. That's what it is in its
Right.
grandest and most simplest form. It's the story of how we got to the moment we are in right now, and everything that precedes it is history. So I think if you could tell that in a compelling way, that people see themselves in and connect to, because so often the way we're taught history in school is really one-dimensional. It's about, what battles to memorize, what historic figures to memorize, and so many people don't see themselves or their story as part of history. And I think if we can bring to Origin of Everything the sense that the collective story belongs to all of us and we're all telling it and everyone has a place to play in it, I think that we've been successful, and that's all I really hope for.
Well, I think you've got that and done beyond that. So pretty amazing. Well, Dr. Bainbridge, this is the shameless plug portion of the program. So, tell everybody Origin of Everything, where to watch it, where to find it, and where to follow you or your team on social media.
Oh, great! Shameless plugs. I love that. So at least calling it what it is.
Well,
you could find you can find Origin of Everything on YouTube at youtube.com/Origin of Everything, or no, youtube.com/PBS Origin of Everything. You could also find us on Facebook Watch, which is PBS Origin of Everything. There is a Twitter account that you could follow for our show called PBS Origin. And we also are on Instagram, where you could find us at PBS Origin of Everything.
Special thanks to our guest, Dr. Danielle Bainbridge from PBS Digital Studios. And we can't tell you how wonderful the work is that they do there. Check out the latest addition to that wonderful series, as she asked the question, why do we say African American? All the information is in the show box below. Again, special thanks to Danielle Bainbridge for joining us today. We'll be back with more and some final thoughts on what's going on in the world of streaming video right after these words from the 2021 Ford Bronco.
There's still some wild out there. Those grayed out sections on maps that map makers haven't gotten to yet. Places where cell service and calendar reminders don't exist. But you have to get out there and look for it. And to look for it, you need something that's just as wild as the wild. You need something that can look adventure in the eye and give it a firm handshake. Something built with the toughness of an F-Series and the spirit of a Mustang. Something that's not happy until it takes you through whatever creek or snow or mud or mountain trail or dune or logging road or landmark with death in its name. You need a Bronco. Built as wild as what you're looking for.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, if you're not one of the over 50,000 people worldwide who've taken the time to join our little party here, well, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, it's easy. It's free. You can find us at the Apple Podcast. You can find us at Google Play. Same thing over at Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, as well as TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and recently we've been invited and happily joined the Amazon group. That's right, we are now part of the Prime Music and Podcast. You can check us out as well. Okay, now if you have an assistant device like Siri or Alexa or Google, all you have to do is ask them, please play the latest edition of Jim Williams, and they'll be happy to do it for you. Okay, so can't make it here, folks. Go out there, subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts. Now, let's talk about this weekend. It could be entertaining for you as well as informative. On the entertainment side, if you haven't yet checked out Peacock, it's now dropped on Roku, and you can get it, and I highly recommend it. There's a lot of really good free content on there from the NBC Universal library. It's really tough. There is a version of which you can subscribe to, and I'll let you decide. It's under $6. It's interesting content. It's because I think Peacock is doing what CBS All Access, I'm a subscriber to that one too, is doing, and that's creating. For instance, Picard is on CBS All Access. I'm quite sure that the same type of plans are going forward for Peacock. So check out Peacock. As I said, there's a ton of really good free stuff on there. Should you wish to go spend a little extra money and get some of the paid content, that's up to you, but give it a run for a while and see what you like. As I said, there's enough content on it on the free side to certainly make it one of your apps, to be sure. And it's only going to grow. Now, I know with only 25 or so days left in the calendar until we vote, that's very important to people. So they need news. As you know, we've had Vlad Druthers here from CBSN and many of the executives as well. We highly recommend CBSN. It is a tab. You should have it on your phone, on your tablet, and of course on your connected devices. So CBSN, go out, download it today. You need it, got to have it, and it keeps you up to date on everything. Pluto TV, highly recommend that. It has a tremendous and very deep amount of news that you can get. It's a free app, which again you can put down on your phone, on your tablet and connected device. That's another must-have. Highly recommend also ABC Live and NBC Now. ABC News Live and NBC News Now. They're somewhat recent additions. They've gotten much better. There's plenty of good content from the news side. So that'll cover you on news in the United States. If you want to look if you're watching us from around the world, a couple of other ones I highly recommend that you check out. Again, they're free. Sky News, because they really have a wonderful set of programming on there, which gives you a really good global look at what's going on, as well as France 24, our buddies over there, have done a super job too. So there's a couple ones you want to check out. Euronews as well. They're all free. Download them and be sure to check them out constantly between now and beyond November 3rd. But if they're really psyched and looking forward to this very, very crucial election coming up in 24 or 25 days, by all means, you need all those apps, okay? All right. Well, for the entire group here at Stream, I'm Jim Williams, wishing you a safe and happy week. And we'll be back next time right here on Stream On with some fun stuff for you. We got some crazy things coming from Acorn, from Sundance Now, from Showtime, a whole bunch of stuff coming down the pipeline now that some of these folks are getting back to work after COVID-19. And it's really some good stuff coming from around the world, not just here in the U.S. So by all means, with this, we'll be presenting some good stuff as quick as we can, and that will begin, of course, next week too. So before I let you go, don't forget, check out PBS Digital. Some really cool stuff going on there, and we talked about that earlier in the podcast. So check out all that information on PBS Digital below. So until next time, I'm Jim Williams from Stream On. Have a wonderful week. See you in 7 days.